dun, dun. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Ask That. My name is Clark Sell. I'm a mechanic who's turned software practitioner, and I'm on a mission to build the most inclusive kick-ass community and conference on the planet. Now, if you've been watching this, you know that I actually wrote an intro, so we're getting better at this day by day. But the truth is, every day I do want to inspire you. I want to inspire you through the personal stories of the practitioners around us. And today, I want to introduce you to Javeria Masood, and we are going to have a fantastic conversation about community. It is near and dear to my heart. We're actually late today by almost 45 minutes because Javeria and I have been rapping about community so hard, so long, that I wish we would have hit record about 20 minutes. So with that being said, welcome to another edition of Ask That. Javeria, thank you for joining us. How are you? I know how you are. That's such a bullshit question. Like, we've been rapping for the last 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But for everybody else who's out there, why don't you start with just a quick introduction of who you are?
Okay. Well, first, I'm good and I'm excited. And my name is Javeria Masood. I'm a digital marketing manager for a local finance company here in Indianapolis. And I am really involved in community service with running. I used to run CoderDojo. It was a coding group for kids. It was a nonprofit organization, Techpoint Foundation for Youth, and they were backing the group. And we hosted 2 successful sessions out of Apple Store. That was pretty awesome. Yeah. And I've also recently founded and started another group for artificial intelligence. It's the only group of its kind about artificial intelligence in Indy. Okay. And before then, I used to be IT consultant. So there's just a little bit about myself.
Yeah, and so we are going to have, for everybody listening right now or watching later, we are certainly going to have multiple conversations because your bio is, and your work is certainly impressive, not just from interacting with Watson, who I just thought was a Jeopardy thing, but your involvement in the community. And so today you and I are going to talk about community. It is near and dear to who you and I both are, and I'm guessing some of this is going to be a little bit of a repeat of the last 45 minutes that we've had, but you asked me, we're going to start this with, you had asked me, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And you were the first person to ask me why. And why I'm doing it, this isn't about me today. This is about you and shining the light on you. But I want you to tell everybody why you asked me why I'm doing it.
Because I wanted to know I'm not the only crazy person that's just so passionate about giving and inspiring and empowering other people. And we obviously, both of us, we have our day jobs. And then at the same time, we're 100% dedicated to the community initiatives that we're running. So I really wanted to know that, what drives you? What is motivating you? And some common factors that I can find, and maybe find something inspiring for myself there.
Sure. And so I was like, it's great that you asked. So thank you, because it made me feel all warm and nice inside. But why? Well, So why are you dedicated to, why do you spend your nights and weekends working on community stuff?
Because you never know.
You asked me. I'm gonna flip it on you. Why you? Why are you doing it?
Because you never know who you reach and who you inspire. So, because some of the talks that I've been to and I've attended, and just learning about experiences and stories, I got inspired myself. So that is my goal, to get people excited, and just the feeling that you have when you, like, I was meeting, I had a meeting yesterday with somebody about this initiative that I wanted to run. And he was like, well, I was not really excited because it was snowing here. And
that's a good reason, though.
yeah, so he's like, when I was coming to the meeting, I was like, oh God, it's snowing, the drive. But then he left excited. He was like, I'm super excited about this. And so the energy that I saw in his face before he left, that's why I'm doing it. And then I have a lot of people come up to me and they're like, wow, this was really enlightening in what you shared. And then for me, I'm like, well, I still have a lot to learn myself. Sure. And during those interactions, I think it's a give and take. It's both ways. Yep. So it's not just that I am inspiring, but I'm walking out of that myself being energized.
Sure.
If that makes
Yeah. So do you find inspiration in others inspiring others?
Oh yes, definitely.
Which do you find more inspiration in?
Others inspiring others, or
you inspiring others?
Well, that's a difficult one.
I know. I could tell you what the answer is.
Well,
I mean, I've known you for all of 50 minutes now.
I feel happy that, if I was able to do something for somebody, or inspire, or give a piece of advice, or connect a dot for somebody somewhere that helped them.
Yeah.
But seeing that other people are doing the same thing, I think it inspires me more, because then I want to do more good. So I was connecting, for example, this dot for somebody, and just, he needed to connect with somebody else. And I was telling him, he asked me, what do you need from me? I was like, do the same for somebody else.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Right. And you right there, you just answered that question. Like, what I need is for you to do that for somebody. Like, that's a very altruistic, like, please share this and like grow this little seed. I love it. You mentioned CoderDojo, and we've actually had one of the local CoderDojos for a number of years participate up at that conference. Let's start with just telling people, like, what is CoderDojo? What is that all about? And then we'll dive into more of it.
Okay. So CoderDojo is a free coding group for kids ages 12 to 17. So where they can learn coding skills and soft skills like presenting and engaging in teams. And then we work with technology as well, like Spheros, Raspberry Pis, Swift playgrounds, apps like Scratch by MIT or Hopscotch. So they're being introduced to a few different mediums.
Sure. Why did you start getting involved with them, with CoderDojo?
No, that's a funny story. I was working for McGraw-Hill Publishing Company.
Oh yeah, totally.
So that is a couple of years back. That is when standardized testing in schools.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to move that from paper pencil to online.
I'd laugh because I may have worked with another publishing company back in my enterprise days, in working with that standardized testing and putting it on an iPad.
So and they were rolling out devices, Chromebook, PCs, iPads into all of these schools, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't think parents really want their kids to be on these devices just playing games. And they can do more. If they can play Minecraft, they can build all these cool world, then
Yep.
they could certainly learn how to program or
Absolutely. Yeah. Put that mind to use.
yes.
Yeah.
So that is when I started looking into things. I reached out to the local library and I was like, well, I need this space during these days. And, I was just trying to connect all of these dots. And then
Sure.
I reached out to the Hopscotch team in New York. And then just on my own, and the response was great. They were really supportive. They provided me with the official letter of support. They provided me with their curriculum. And for one of our sessions, they actually logged in live from New York to say hi to all the
Oh,
kids.
that's cool.
Yeah. So that was pretty awesome. And then I got connected with Techpoint Foundation for Youth, a nonprofit here locally,
Okay.
and so that's the story.
So like, so you've done that. You've done it for a few years. You got it set up. Like, what you know? Why would you tell others to try to get involved in something like that? Like, what was the most like inspiring thing that you saw happen as a result of that?
So not just the kids, but the parents that were bringing them. I didn't want it to be another Sunday school format, where
Yeah,
they're
sure.
dressed attending.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
I'm not your babysitter.
yes. So parents are obviously putting an effort into that by bringing them.
Yep.
And they want their kids to learn. And what was really exciting for me to see was that all of those kids, now it was a really diverse group. It was not like just one age group. Like if you're in fifth grade, then it's just all fifth graders, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was like fourth graders, fifth graders, sixth graders, all of them at a different level of understanding for programming in the same room. And then the parents are there. Some of the kids that were really nervous about presenting. After 2, 3 sessions, they were so excited and they wanted to come, and the parents were learning too with them. So for me, that was a big takeaway.
How do you think the dynamic changed from the start to the end? Like,
For the group.
I have to imagine. Yeah, I have to imagine that the path taken, was certainly super unknown in the beginning, and then like drastically different. I don't want to say an end because everything we were talking earlier, like everything's a journey.
Yes,
So like take a stretch of, I don't know, 12 months. What did it look like after 12 months?
it definitely grew. A lot more parents heard about the group. Kids kept coming back. Um, Even older kids that were intimidated by it. They were like,
Oh,
girls.
interesting.
Yeah, so they were like, all programming, coding. Oh my God. And then in the process, their siblings got interested in it too. So after 12 months, it definitely grew. Uh, Kids were more comfortable. They wanted to be a part of it.
That's awesome. How what were kids building? I mean, we've all heard Scratch and all that kind of stuff. Like, what does the I don't curriculum sounds so like formal, but what where I have to imagine as new kids come in or new parents come in that um, you're almost like rebasing, like one section of people, yet you've got, Charlie Whiz Kid over here who's got I use that example because I can remember one of my first programming classes in college, and I was sitting next to somebody, and he was doing shit in Pascal, and shit's dancing across the screen, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm done. Like, there's no way I'm gonna survive this thing. I have to imagine there's like this, rebasing new kids and new parents to, Charlie Whiz who's doing this stuff every day. I like, how does that dynamic work for everybody?
So we did, so we met monthly, right? And then there's a big gap. There's a few weeks in the middle where they're not doing anything. And we also had other volunteers. So we would send out emails during and before and after the event as well. This is what we covered during the event. And for example, if we covered loops or, we worked with Scratch on a certain program, then we would just give them details. And then when they came back, they all knew what we had worked on. And if there was somebody else that was a little bit more advanced, then another volunteer while we were running the session would help them on their level. And then we would also break kids into groups and teams right there, right then, to sort of have a breakout session and tell them, okay, this is what we covered today, and just select a team name and then go ahead and use this and build your own project. So then we would give them a time frame, and then they would build a project and they would share it with everybody.
Sure. What have these kids gone on to do with that? So now the kids have been involved with CoderDojo, and now there's a little community forming of kids. Like, where does it go next?
So for me, my motivation was to inspire and to show that this can work and that the kids will get interested in this, and that they want to do it. They just need that platform that someone can organize for them.
Sure.
So they got that out of school setting, which is not sort of boxed up, where they have the freedom to do more.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's not like a classroom setting.
Yeah.
But I would like to start this in juvenile detention centers as well.
Really?
Because they're taking, kids there are taking standardized testing too, so they have access to technology.
Yeah.
Why not help them?
I like it. I know community's passionate for you. I mean, why, what is, outside of CoderDojo and the kids aspect of things, what does community look like for you?
Community is sort of like a family. So where it's all, where we can just share everything we're doing. It's not about you or me. It's about we.
Sure. How do you feel as a woman in community?
It is challenging.
Okay. Why? What makes it challenging? And if you don't want to answer, that's totally fine, because I totally put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. I want to, because I've had a lot of support as well, but and positive feedback. But I guess at a certain point you sort of question, because you are doing something different, and so you have to have that balance, and sometimes question yourself where you're like, oh, am I being too assertive? Will this be acceptable? And how will I be perceived? And so I think just that aspect of it is a little bit challenging to prove myself, because I feel like I have more to prove.
Sure.
But the feedback so far has been great. Support. Everybody's been in support of the initiatives that I've been running locally.
Would you say that you have thick skin?
I grew up with 3 brothers.
I didn't mean physically. I kind of meant mentally.
Well, that is both.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah. So,
where do you fall? Are you oldest, middle? I guess you don't have really middle if you have 3 brothers, but middle-ish.
Yes, middle-ish.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that. I have a daughter. I have a daughter and a son, and I would say that the two are light years apart of one another. You know, their interactions are different. I can see firsthand how my daughter's treated in school at a very young age, which is at times super not appropriate. And she's in fourth grade, which is disappointing. And I can only imagine that gets kind of perpetuated as time goes on. I think a lot of the things that are happening right now are, I think there's goods and bads with everything, right? And I think the fact that we can have a conversation now and ask those questions is fantastic. I know one of the things for us with the conference is to make sure that we like building the most badass, inclusive, kick-ass community where people can be inspired by one another, whether that's a 12-year-old to a 40-year-old girl, boy, black, white, yellow. Like, I don't really give a shit. What I want is the people who are altruistic and like setting the example, and that's when people do their best stuff. Like my biggest mentors, people who inspired me have actually been women. There are three people that I attribute a lot of like kind of career advice from. Two of them were women and one was a guy, and I couldn't thank them enough for the things that they said. The perspectives were completely different. I mean, and it's, I don't know, I look at the computer industry and I think we're babies in this whole thing. Like, there are so many other industries out there who have been around a lot longer, who have a lot of the same problems, who have had those problems for many, many years. You know, we hear, well, there's not enough women in tech. I would agree. There's also not enough men as teachers. Like, my son has had one male teacher in his 7 years of school. That's terrible. Like, there needs to be a balance there too, right? We need more male nurses, right? Like, the balance happens everywhere. And I feel like at times, like, nothing's balanced. Like, we seem to just be completely off the rockers. Now, maybe that's different in other countries and I'm not exposed to it, but I appreciate you sharing, because I think it's important. It's something that I'm pretty hypersensitive to. Like, we're always looking for more women speakers. I was telling you earlier, like, I can get that 8 to 16-year-old girl speak long before I can find an 8 to 16-year-old boy. And so now is that a sign of like the tables are turning and there'll be more women in tech? I mean, that's like totally painting like weird broad strokes, and God, who knows? But I find it super, super interesting that young ladies are way more aggressive in that. And maybe aggressive is not the right word, but way more into doing that than the young men are. And I hope that that's like an awesome opportunity for them. I don't know. I mean, my wife and I talk about all the time, like, well, I don't know. We'll see if we screwed up our kids in like 18 years. Like, there's a long tail on that one. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, being a woman in tech, it is a male-dominated field, but sure, I've also received a lot of support. And when I launched the group, I was nervous. I was intimidated being surrounded by people who have 20 plus, more industry experience than I do.
Yeah.
But then when they came up to me and they were like, yeah, thanks for putting this together. Thanks for organizing this. That's when I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And I want to do this.
Yeah. I know you told me earlier you were from Pakistan and you've been here for quite a while, and you said you go back and forth. How is it, and maybe you don't know, I don't know. I hope you know. How's tech different here than it is, abroad? Or how's community different here than it is abroad?
A lot of people are into tech back home, but then I'm also talking about, it's been 17 years.
Sure.
But my dad was an aeronautical engineer. All my one of my brothers is a PhD in computer science. One's a biomed engineer. One's a data scientist. And so I was surrounded by that. A lot of my cousins, they're doctors. And so academics and education was very important.
Sure.
And I grew up like that, but I mean, there's a difference, but a lot of people now, especially girls, young girls and women, they're choosing tech-oriented fields back home too.
Why do you think that is?
I think because the culture is shifting and they see more demand for it too.
Sure.
And
More accessible, I guess. I mean,
yes, it's becoming more accessible, and I guess they also understand that, you know, it is reshaping our future, and so there's no way you can avoid it.
sure.
It's sort of like how in Hidden Figures, Dorothy taught herself Fortran to work the IBM computer.
Yeah.
You
Essentially
know,
taught her Fortran. Though. Whew.
so, she saw the need for it and
Yeah.
she did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, certainly tech, computers, whatever, the phone, iPads, I mean, certainly they're more accessible to us than, say, being a doctor, right? I mean, it's pretty frowned upon to practice doctor stuff without going through some educational process.
And Grey's Anatomy is the closest I'll ever come to
Right.
medicine.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that's a big driver for things, but I would also, say that not everybody has the same opportunity by any stretch. So, I mean, the Raspberry Pi, while a lot of people think of it as this like IoT device, the reality is that device was created to give a low barrier cost value to create exposure for kids and adults to have a computer, right? It was a $30 full-fledged computer. It wasn't meant to necessarily be like, I don't know, the device that runs, I don't know, something, right? It was meant to be an educational device. And so, good. I mean, I can't thank them enough for doing it because I think it's a super noble cause to get computers in the hands of people.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, it's inevitable that it's going to be all technology.
Sure, sure.
I don't know if you've seen the movie The Circle.
No, I haven't.
Emma Watson and
Okay.
Tom
Okay.
Hanks.
Okay. It's a recent one, right?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a while since it's been released, but
Okay. I'll put it on the list. I don't get much TV time. I'm superly overly committed, so TV time doesn't happen very often. We're at the end of our time, and at the end of these, I like to acknowledge and I like to extend a bit of gratitude. And with that being said, I want to thank you for not only being on this but for sharing. We should have hit record 45 minutes earlier. I'm glad that we had a chance to have that conversation. I'm glad that we have had this, and I'm glad we're going to have another one because I want to talk to you about the whole AI and Watson and the tech side of Javeria, because that is equally as passionate and inspiring as your involvement in the community side. But I truly want to say thank you to you for being involved as a woman in tech, not only doing the CoderDojo stuff, but everything else that you're doing and speaking out there. So with that being said, thank you for everything that you do. Which leads me to my last question. And usually I ask people, how would you inspire others? But that's something that you do every day. So I'm not going to ask you that question. I'm going to ask this. I'm going to ask you, how can I support you? Or how can somebody else help support you. And I mean that with the truest of sense. Like, truly, if there's something that I can do to support you, please tell me, either now or later. But how can we support you?
So you already are, by shining light on this and what I do, because this is really important for me. And I want more people to do the same thing. I want this to grow.
Okay.
I want more me's, and because I was inspired as well. But I am looking for space to be able to host my events, and just working on my own. It's with the day job, obviously, and trying to reach out to people, and in project management, 90% is just communication.
Yep.
So that's been a struggle, but I would like to continue these talks, I guess, to be able to shine more light on it and to bring awareness.
I love it. I love it. And that's something that everybody can do. It's not just us and our platform, but everybody. With that being said, thank you. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'd like to ask you to help out Javeria. Let's make sure that everybody has seen this. Let's give that thumbs up. Let's like it. Let's share it with our friends. Word of mouth is one of the most powerful things that we have to share the good word. So I ask you, implore you to share this with your friends, your family. Javeria is out of Indianapolis. That's in Indiana, for those that don't know. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're not from Indiana. What it matters is that the word and the thing gets cast. I'd also like to know from everybody, and I'm sure Javeria would as well, how do you interact with the community? What do you see as things that are important? How have you inspired kids or other adults? What can anybody do better in that realm? Leave some comments below. We'll get involved. Javeria, how can people get a hold of you? Where can they find more about you?
I am on Twitter. I am on LinkedIn and Indie Meetups. The group is called Ready for AI, Carmel.
Okay.
And you can join the fun on Twitter at CoderDojo 46038.
Alrighty. With that being said, thank you for the conversation. I look forward to talking about Watson, the robots, because as far as I'm concerned, the Jetsons were the originators and have been screwed in this whole ordeal. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do, and we will talk next time.
Thank you so much, Clark.